Totally for Mela. No message. Agreed.
Man, what we got here?
What the hell are you doing?
I'm not telling my little brother to get help.
Don't do it, Leah. Take care of myself.
If you think so, prove you to be.
Both of you shut up. Did Sam send you?
Sam doesn't even know I left.
All right, guys. Y'all ain't getting no feedback, are you? Because I've got another stream going on YouTube. So if we get too full, people can join from YouTube.
I know what his plan is.
No feedback, Jerry?
Sam's lost the element of surprise that he doesn't.
Hear me?
No, I hear a TV or something in the background.
Well, that's somebody else. Hang on, let me mute. How about now?
Yeah, I'm not hearing nothing but just you.
Good. For people that once they get up to 100, they can still go to YouTube. They won't be able to see the speaker. So I got it streaming live on YouTube for those that can't join, that want to join if they get too crowded. So
Mark, you're a long ways away, aren't you?
We got an hour before this meeting starts. I'm just letting you know, Lau P will be sharing, but it's an hour before it actually starts. So you can hang out in the background, chill out. Once we get to 100 participants, we won't be able to allow anybody else in because of my limitations, but I do have a link on YouTube. So there you go. We're starting to fill it.
Mark, are you really from Scotland?
I am indeed, my friend. I am indeed. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight.
Come on.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Y'all can chit chat among yourselves. I'm going to make sure people can get to this link on YouTube. I'm gonna post it on global listing real quick because it changes. So anyway, y'all hang out. I'll be right in the background.
Thanks, Skip.
Don't start till 8 o'clock. So, this is gonna be good.
All right, who's button up first?
Mark, does Scotland have an East Coast?
Yeah, but we're a different breed. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. How you all doing?
Good. Every year I go to a midwinter conference in January, and there's a couple that comes from Northern Ireland every year, and we can't understand them.
It's all right. We can't understand them either.
They both have spoke at that conference. You seemed like I could understand her better than I could him. He'd say something about sobriety, and I thought, what kind of word is that? And he was actually saying sobriety, and he was coming out sobriety. I thought, we'll never figure this out.
Yeah. So, what's the format tonight then? How does it go?
Tonight, the format for tonight. Is that what you're asking? Oh, we've got a treat for tonight. The guy that's speaking is named Lyle, and he is in the big book. His story is grounded in the fourth edition.
Yeah, I've read it.
Oh yeah, it's a great story. I've actually heard him at a convention. He's pretty much all business, but it's a good story.
Looking forward to hearing them. It was posted on a closed Facebook group, and I don't know if you know her, the lady Judith. I know her as Judith. She posted about this on tonight, so I thought, I need to stay up late. That's how you
found out about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I should stay up late and see if I can get into the meeting.
What time is it? What time is it there?
Just past midnight.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm trying to get my my friend in to the meeting as well. He's he likes that story, you know, and he's got a bit of affinity with Lyle's kind of culture that he speaks about in the book in his chapter, you know. So it'd be good if he can make it in. So looking forward to tonight.
Cool. Glad to have you.
Yeah. Where are you from, Jerry?
I'm from North Carolina. This meeting is pretty much around where I'm. It's about Greensboro is about 35 miles from where I live. I live out in the country.
Yeah.
And,
Are you on the what do you call it, the barbecue belt?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'd love to.
I almost brought me some ribs home to fix, but I'm gonna bring me some home tomorrow.
Yeah, nice.
In fact, I experimented with a rack of ribs a couple of weeks ago, and it came out really good. So I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, my friend and I, we're chefs. Well, used to be chefs.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, people coming.
And and we built a couple of smokers out of old filing cabinets. You know, took an angle grinder to it and cut out all the drawers, or the bottoms out the drawers, and stuck grates in, and got a water tray and stuff. It's awesome. It's good fun. You know, total cowboy, Scottish cowboy stuff. You know what I mean? Like pure fake it till you make it. You know.
Yeah.
So that's live on YouTube. Is there a link for that? Copy streaming link.
Kip, the guy that's helping with this deal here, he has figured out a way to get more people on here than just 100. Because if you get it set up for more than 100, it costs about $250 or more to do that.
Yeah, we do have. If y'all want to share, if you want to share this link with people, I'll send it in the chat. And if it gets over, they can at least come to the YouTube page and watch it, because it's a speaker meeting anyway. So ain't gonna be no talking going on much other than the readers. But Lau P is gonna be doing most of the speaking. So if they can't log in here because we're overcrowded, they can still hear from YouTube. We're streaming live right now.
Oh, I wish I had done my hair in that case.
Well, when he starts, I'll probably put it mainly on speaker view, but right now we've got, you know, like I said, it don't start till 8. We got another 52 minutes before we start.
Okay.
I started the meeting 3 months ago. Our local speaker meeting, 16th Street, decided not to have a Wednesday night meeting. So I just decided to start this meeting and just call it AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting. We've had speakers from all over the country speak here.
It's awesome.
Really,
I met
it's been a good one.
Do you know Judith? Do you know who that is? I only know it as Judith.
Do what now?
Judith. Her name is Judith.
Judith.
Lady. Yeah. No.
His friend Judith was the one that told him about this meeting going on tonight, but I'm not sure. Who
well, it might have been on the 24. I know Big Bob was going to share it with people on the 24-hour meeting, AA home group. So he may have gotten it from her.
Perhaps.
I may know Judith. There's a Judith that's in the On Awakening. I mean, Early Bird meeting.
She's wonderful.
You know Judith from Greensboro? My dogs. I got to get them treated up. I'll be back, y'all.
What part of the world is Judith from, Mark? Do you know?
I only know her from she's from the States somewhere. I don't know.
Somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Well, you've
She
got
done it.
24/7 meetings going on. It's around the clock, and they go around the world. I mean, we're
Yeah.
around the world here, evidently.
Yeah.
So,
Zoom has
it's
been
no telling.
Zoom has been great for that, you know, especially at the beginning of this pandemic. For me, I was in the 24-hour rooms constantly. A friend of mine, well, in fact, my sponsor, he sent me a link to a Google Documents page, and the resources are endless. You can be in a meeting any time of day, you know.
Yeah.
And I think in my opinion, I hope anyway that continues even once the face-to-face meetings come back, you know. I hope that continues.
We have a early bird meeting here that it's on every morning at 8 o'clock, and it has got so popular. I mean, there's been people from Iceland, Ireland, England, Australia, all over Canada, and all over the United States. And they've become regulars every morning. Of course, I mean, you know, Greensboro is like 35 miles away, and chances are I'm not going to get up and be at a meeting in Greensboro at 8 o'clock. But if all I got to do is turn my computer on or roll over and grab my telephone, you know, I can just roll over and grab my telephone. In fact, my first early bird meeting, I was in between the sheets. I just grabbed my phone and I was on, you know, I was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. It's great, and a lot of people hope that we continue to do this. Well, we're gonna have to continue to do it for a while anyway, because they're not allowed. The government's not allowing us
You got
to.
Lit, you hear him, don't
together.
you? That boy's got. He got him.
Yeah.
Let me look
We're
real quick, baby.
we're in the same boat. It's
I
the same
have it
situation
for
here.
You see, I got a brother that lives in South America, and the same thing's going on down there. Of course, he's not one of us. But how long you been sober, Mark?
I'm coming up 18 months.
Okay, well, great. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's one day at a time, man. You know, it's amazing how much can change in a very short period of time. Comparatively, a lot can change.
Absolutely.
In a short period of time. So.
Yeah, the guy that was just talking, Kip, he's getting ready to pick up 10 years.
Fantastic.
In about a week.
Fantastic.
Last month, I picked up 20.
Yes. Right. Brilliant. Fantastic. Well done, Jerry. Well done. All done one day at a time through the grace of God and the help of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Just like I look at my work computer. I put everything in that calendar. That's great. Wendy speaking in her point. That worked out perfect, baby. Okay, cool beans. All right, honey, I love you.
There's my beautiful wife.
Thank you. How do I take, I want to get my, I don't want to, my face. How do I get, oh, good.
No face.
Thank you.
Why don't you want your face?
Oh, because, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it's on
get out any place. That's the problem. Just walk around the block. In the summertime, you'll find people sitting on the
Hey, Michael. Hey, Michael.
Hey, yes. How are you?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Good.
We still
Who am I
got
speaking to?
This is Kip, the host of
Hi,
tonight's
Kip.
AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting.
What's cooking, Kip? Hold on, George.
Oh, go ahead and finish your conversation. I'll be here in the background. You good?
Oh, that's all right. That's my cousin George, who I just invited also.
If we get over 100 people, I'll put in the chat. I got a link where we're YouTube live, so
Oh, okay.
other people can click on that link and send it to people if you need to.
Okay, George. All right, I will. Thank you, Kip.
Yeah, I'm limited to 100. I'm sure it'll get full tonight with Lyle speaking. So I found a way so everybody can join.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured I'd sign on early because of that fact. I didn't know how many people you had.
Yeah, I only have 100, but I got it streaming live on YouTube so people can still see it.
Well, can you hear me now?
Hey, George.
Yeah, we can hear you, George.
Hello, sir. I've never done this before, so please give me a learning curve.
Video on so we can see you.
Can you see me?
No, we can't see you, but hang on.
How about now?
George, where you at? Yes.
Okay, cool. I got my puppy wanting to play at the moment, so I'm going to try to ignore her as best as I can until the end of this meeting.
All right.
The AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting. Hey, Becky.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm in Michigan.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Greensboro, North Carolina, is where this originated from, but we're worldwide, of course.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you for the invite. A friend of mine gave it to me. I'm super excited. Thank you.
I'm sharing a link you can send to your friends. If we get too maxed out, it's streaming live on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be in the background waiting. Thank you.
I'm going to be in the background waiting too. I got a couple other things to take care of, like make me a cup of coffee. We got 35 minutes.
Okie dokie.
Hey, Kim. You're muted.
Hi, Kip.
Good to see you again.
Is Ken? Oh, good. Ken's coming on.
Yeah, that's good. I'll be back.
I told him to go ahead and get on.
Yeah, you better probably. I mean, we may end up only having 70 or 80. I don't know. It's hard to predict with him.
Right.
And it's been announced. So.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stop my video and go do some things, and I'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Stay connected.
I know.
Don't
I just hit stop video?
Yeah. Just don't.
But remember last time it cut me off.
It shouldn't.
Well, just leave it on.
Hey, baby doll.
Hey, hon.
All right. I shall see you guys later.
Hey, Kim.
Is that
Kim.
Alan? Hey, Alan.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fine, Kim.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
I wanted to speak to you.
Well, thank you for speaking to me. Don't you miss seeing everybody? I miss seeing everybody.
Yeah, me too.
I really do. But
yeah, maybe to be God will, we'll be able to get back together.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do some stuff, and I.
Okay.
Greg from Connecticut, I see you down there.
Nice to see you, Jerry. I haven't seen you in a while.
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Ken said
I'll be back with you guys.
Yeah,
I've just had things going on here.
yeah. Ken is our keynote speaker at our 10th anniversary, which is this Saturday, 4th of July, the first day we started the meeting.
Okay.
He's going to be speaking at noon.
Okay, I'll try not to miss that. Saturday?
Yeah. Saturday, 4th of July at noon, and the room will open about 11:30.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Hello, Heather.
Hey Jerry, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good for an old man.
Well, good. I just finished meeting with my sponsor. I'm on my way to the house so I can get nestled in for our meeting tonight. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to
How's
see your
it?
picture.
That's right. Oh, I said I got to get on this meeting.
Yeah,
7:30.
there's no telling how many people. You know, it might not be that many, but it may fill up real quick.
I've been spreading this thing like wildfire.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
we've
come.
already got a guy on here from Scotland. So
I am thrilled. I was like, I'm looking forward to this all week. And normally my sponsor and I don't meet this long.
I've heard Lyle before. He's got a good story. In fact, I've got copies of his story.
Do ya? Is he on yet?
He's not here yet.
Well, where's he from?
Georgia, I think.
Oh, I like that. We're going there for vacation, Savannah, in July. Oh, it is July. Lord, I done forgot what. July 1st. You been on the roof anymore?
Not since several days ago. That about wore me down. I've been doing a lot of work around here. I've about touched most of the bases that I wanted to touch.
Good. I'd love to redo my daughter's room my stepdaughter's room before she comes back home from her mama's.
Right.
She's like not a little girl anymore, but she's not a grown girl either.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Well, I'd been letting things go by for so long. A lot of stuff accumulated on me.
It's easy to do.
Procrastination. See, I've always worked on everybody else's house. Watch mine fall down.
Well, because they're paying you to come work on their house.
Well, I've retired, so I still do some things, but it ain't like it used to be.
Right. You gotta stay busy.
Yeah. What's up, Ken Breaker?
I'm doing all right, Jerry Joyce. You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. I see Greg's on here too.
Is Greg on here now? Okay,
Yeah.
I told him about it, so he should be. He said he was coming on.
Yeah. So you're gonna be speaking for their anniversary Saturday?
Yeah, I'm speaking for the anniversary Saturday. Yeah.
I'll try not to miss it.
Well, I don't know what you probably heard the same thing from me over the past 10 years I've been back here.
I've heard it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Hey, my girl. Yo, bro.
You see the speaker?
Not yet. Hang on.
Hi. Hi.
Somebody said hi.
Hi.
Tommy?
That's correct. Whoever said that.
Jerry up here, I hadn't seen you in a little while.
I don't think I've ever been to this meeting.
Hey, Tommy.
There's a great, yeah, hey, yeah. There's a great speaker I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lau P is speaking at 8 o'clock.
Did he ever fly airplanes?
He
Yeah.
did.
He's got
The
the
stories in the book, Grounded.
Yeah, I think I heard him about 20 or 25 years ago.
Hey, I heard him about 3 years ago.
Yeah. I have to find out if what I remember about it is true.
Tommy, would you like to read for me tonight, like a preamble or step?
Yeah, I can do something. What do you want me to do?
I'll put you down for the preamble.
Okay, I've got it right here. I can just pull it.
I will be sharing it on the screen as well, so you can read it from yours. Or...
Hey, Kim.
Hey.
Kim.
Yes.
You got the promise? Anybody got the promises?
I don't read. We don't read the promise. We do the steps, the traditions, and 24 hours a day.
I do the steps.
All right, got you.
This is Alan.
Okay. Steps, Alan. Okay.
Hey, kids, I got your chips.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a given. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
This meeting starts at 8 o'clock, right?
Yes, 8 o'clock.
Okay, well, I'm going to.
Okay.
Hey, Heather.
Better stick around. You could lose your seat.
We got 51 people and it's 7:36.
I got in early.
I put a couple announcements online today too.
What's up, Banks Hubbard?
Hey, JJ, what you doing?
There's Banks.
Waiting for this meeting. Waiting for this meeting.
Is this your meeting, Kip?
I started this meeting about 3 months or so ago because our local group, 16th Street, decided they wasn't going to have a meeting on Wednesday night on Zoom. They just updated their online stuff. So God put it on my heart just to start an AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting. And we've had speakers from all over the country speak here, conference speakers every week. So we're here every Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Same password, all the ID stays the same?
Every week we'll be here indefinitely.
So now I'm an alcoholic and a Zoomaholic?
Yeah, I'm duly diagnosed now.
Oh, yeah. Man. I don't know if I can carry the burden.
It's easy. It's fun.
You know what? I'm just going to let God carry it.
Is that Fred? Hey, Fred.
That is I.
Just for that, you're going to read the traditions?
Okay.
All right, Fred. I'm going to make you a co-host so you can unmute.
Uh-oh. That's scary.
Yeah. Let's see.
I don't know if I can handle that much power.
Well, I did it anyway.
Uh-oh. Now I got to look and see where my 12 and 12's at. It should be right here in my hand.
I'll be sharing it on the screen.
I got it right here in my hand.
Okay.
Are we just doing the, I guess just the short form? We're not reading all the pages, right?
Just the 12 tradition, yes.
What are you up to, Jerry Joyce?
I've been on a couple of meetings today, and I went into town to get my script filled. So, you know, old people take medicine.
No, he do.
You're gonna say,
I'm
Yeah,
right there on
I'm
that.
there with you.
Kip, I want to show you what too many Zoom meetings will get you.
Whoa, that's a Zoomaholic for sure. Good night. Okay, Alan, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Whenever you read the steps, since you're on a landline, I'm just gonna allow you to unmute yourself. Okay.
Is it the long version or the short version?
Just the steps. Just 12 steps.
Okay.
Not the whole how it works. Now, let's see. I need a lady. I need Martha, would you read the 24 hours a day? Okay, Martha, I'm gonna put you down for the 24 hours a day. That'll be right after the traditions.
Okay, thanks.
And you'll be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Martha.
What's up? What up, Kipper?
Hey, Banks.
How you?
Has anybody seen Lau yet? Still early.
Are you going to put it on the screen or should I find it in my?
Yeah, I'll have it on the screen the 24 hours a day. Yes. It'll be on.
Hey, Kip.
Hey, Banks.
How many you got on yours before you max out?
I've got 100, but it's streaming on YouTube live. So I'm gonna share that in the chat. So if anybody wants to share it with their friends, they can. So you can still get on and hear the meeting, but nobody's gonna be talking anyway much, except for So if you click on that link and you can copy and paste it to somebody you might want to send it to. And I do got all the readers now. Thank you.
Hey, Kip, can you send me that link after the meeting?
I can send it to you now. Once it's a live stream.
I don't care. Send it to me whatever you want to do. Don't matter to me.
I'll send it to you right now.
You won't need it after the meeting, Banks.
You need it now. If you want to send it to somebody.
You need it now.
If you want to send it to somebody, just forward it to somebody that might, because we're getting close to 100 now.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was aiming on doing. Send it on to forward it on to a few people.
There it is.
Good deal.
That's YouTube.
Okay.
Are you gonna put it in the chat so that we can all share it?
Yeah, it's in the chat right now. Did you see it?
I didn't see it. No.
Okay, you must have just came in. I'll send it again. Hang on.
No, I've been sitting here.
No,
I sent it to one person by mistake. My fault.
Right. Okay.
There it is.
Very good looking. He's my cousin.
So if you want to send that to.
Okay, now look for Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate that, Kipper.
Yeah.
No, I was one.
Mm-hmm.
You got 80 people in the house already. If Lyle don't get here, he won't get in, will he?
Hey, Mike.
I know how to shut it down. Trust me. When we get to
okay.
Miguel.
You know who to check out, right?
Yep.
Hold on.
Exactly.
Did you see all the faces up on top?
Okay. Enable waiting room. There we go. If you're
Hey,
a co-host,
everybody.
you're a co-host, don't worry about the waiting room.
Hey, Natalie.
Greg's supposed to be here somewhere.
Hey, Banks. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night.
Okay. Well,
I am so surprised y'all aren't worn out with hearing me.
You got your numbers for tomorrow night, don't you, Natalie?
Yes, sir, I do. I think that the Hope for Alcoholics is on the website.
Okay. All right. Just
if not, I have your number though.
Cool beans.
Natalie, Kendra did such a knockout job Sunday. I was like, holy cow, she's amazing.
Well, I think you're a firecracker.
Oh no. I'm excited. I didn't know you were speaking tomorrow.
I am. I'm gonna speak at the Hope for Alcoholics.
Oh, I'm excited.
All right.
Well.
Hey, Heather.
Hey, Banks.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm driving home from meeting with my sponsor.
I'm right where I need to be.
Right out of the COVIDs.
Hey, until they get this deal under wraps, this is where I'm gonna be from now on. I can't handle it.
Keep you 6 feet apart. We working in mask at work.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
It's hot, but whatever. It's the law.
Hey, that's bad as wearing them cloth masks. You burn up them things on.
We do. We burn and slam up and then
Right.
laugh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Hey, if you're a reader and I've assigned you as a co-host, please do not admit any more people. I'm up to 95 people and I got to let Lyle in. So don't click on letting people join. I got 5
The
more.
top right should say, the very top right should say exit full screen, and then right to the left of it, it say gallery view.
Anyway, so please don't. Somebody's admitting people. Who's doing that? I'm getting ready to withdraw all co-hosts. I got 3 more spaces and I need 1 more person. I've got to have room for
Glasses
in here. Who is doing
George, mute your mic, George.
What mic?
Mute your microphone.
All right, who's doing that?
Sorry, Mike. Do you see him now, Kathy?
All right, here we go.
I'm willing to leave and give up my seat and watch on YouTube.
I'm just saying, I made some co-hosts, and people are letting people in, and they shouldn't be. So please don't do that.
I understand, but
I'm gonna try to find your.
I'm removing all co-host permission because somebody's doing that.
Oh, it's a big
We
meeting.
gotta have room for Lyle to get in here.
Just take everybody off co-host, Kip.
I did. I've got everybody off of it, so nobody.
All right.
You don't see my cousin yet?
I got
Well, that's a lot
99
of
people
pressure
here.
off of me now.
Sound like that.
I don't know how to get in.
He's on his phone. Maybe he's gonna call me. Who knows? Oh, Michael, Oceanside, New York.
Hey, Michael.
It sounds like somebody getting the word out on your meeting.
Do what now?
Yeah, goatee like mine.
Mike, they're talking to
Tan
you.
shirt, glasses.
Michael M.
Hi, what's cooking?
Yeah, that's him.
George, he's not going to get in. Didn't you hear what he just said? He's not letting anybody else in. Turn your mic on, George. Off.
She got in, Mike.
How is this possible? I've got 100 people, and
Do you see him right now?
I have not let everybody in.
I'm showing 85 on my end.
I'm showing 85.
Yeah, I'm showing 85 too.
I'm showing the same.
Do you hear and see him right now?
Saw somebody come up earlier. It said unknown host.
Kip, this is Natalie.
So he was just there and then he just
If
disappeared?
you need me to log out so that Lyle can log in, I can do that.
What the hell are you doing?
Well, I've got. Please stay muted, George.
When you have.
I'm gonna here's what I'm gonna do. Hang on 1 second. I've got to do something here because I don't see Lau here yet. And it's
Smoking a cigar. I haven't seen him smoke a cigar in years, and he's lighting it with a fucking flame torch.
okay, George, you're being removed if you keep cussing. I'm telling you, I'm not tolerating that.
I apologize. I was not speaking to the meeting. I apologize.
I understand that, but you're talking on the phone to somebody else and you're disrupting.
I was trying to get her on the meeting, and
Okay. 1 second, y'all. I don't mean to be rude, but I got a little pressure here going because there's 99. Now there's 99 people. You don't have to leave, Natalie. You just hang on.
Did you just boot George?
Okay, but I can if you need me to.
Yeah, he's got 30 days sobriety. I just invited him to this meeting a half hour ago, and you booted him from the meeting. He's a newcomer.
He's cussing on the page.
He doesn't know how to work the Zoom meeting, and we'll get him to mute it. You just booted
Okay,
the
well,
guy.
tell
He's a
him to come
newcomer.
back on.
I'll give up my spot.
No, it's okay.
Give up a spot for a newcomer.
Kip, you're doing a fine job.
Thank you. I'm doing my best here.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are. You do a fine job. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't let, I'm trying, I got 17 people waiting and it's 7:49 and I got 100 people. I don't know how that ended up happening. I got a waiting room.
I show 83 in with 17 waiting. That would be your 100.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like there's only 83 actually in.
Okay, that's good. So I need to look for, I just need to leave it like it is right now until I see Lau. But that's good. Thank you for that input. I appreciate you guys helping me. I need y'all. I'm not trying to be ugly. Just tell him to log back on, Michael. All's forgiven. Just tell him to log back on. We'll let him back in.
Thank you, sir.
I'm distracted here. I'm
I know.
A little bit of pressure here to make sure the meeting goes off without a hitch. That's what I try to do every week.
Kip, my mother used to say you had both hands full and you were trying to hold up your pants.
Yes, and I was, and I apologize, and I will apologize to him. But
I completely understand. I run a meeting on Fridays with only 30 people.
But I muted him 10 times because I'm trying to find Lau here in this list so that we have our speaker.
My understanding is, because I also host meetings, and my understanding is that once you boot them, they can't get back in.
No, I have a system set up where they can come back in if I have them removed. I do have that. I've accidentally put people out before, so I had to go to my settings and allow them to return. You can lock that, but mine is unlocked.
That's the compassionate Kip. That's what that is.
You will get another chance.
Kip, what part of New York are you from?
I'm from North Kakalaki, man.
It's the southern part of New York.
I love you guys, man. I'm an alcoholic, no doubt, 110%. But I get a little frustrated like the next man. So please don't hold that against me.
I'm still trying to figure out if I'm an alcoholic.
Hang on, I think I got Lyle calling me now. Hang on, y'all.
What's up, James?
So funny story. I went to the doctor today, and the doctor was like, "Where are you
Okay, okay, I unmuted. All right.
That's funny.
Must be a bunch of drunks on here.
Guys. I got Lau. He was having trouble getting in. We got him on the here. Here he is, live and in living color. He is making him a co-host. And if y'all would just stay muted for right now, we got 3 minutes before it starts. And I'm going to co-host the readers because I don't want nobody trying to bomb this meeting. So Lau, you'll be able to unmute yourself. We're going to do a couple of readings here and we're going to turn it over to you and you talk as long as you need to, brother.
Okay, sounds good, Kip.
So we got a couple of minutes. Let me get my readers back as co-host. Tommy. Okay. Who was my other reader? Martha. Okay. Alan, I'll have to find you. You're four. Okay. All right. I'll get Alan in a minute. He's reading the steps. Who else did I miss? Let me look at my list here. Fred. Fred, you still on here? There he is. I got you, Fred. Okay. Who am I missing? I got Martha, I got Tommy, I got Alan, I got Fred, I got Martha. Okay, we got everybody. I'm sorry, y'all, for the little bit of panic. I kind of had a feeling this would happen. But Lau, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us tonight. Man, we are slammed with people who want to come to this meeting and be a part and hear your story, and we just can't wait. But since it's close enough, we got a full packed house. We're going to get started early. How's that sound? 2 minutes early. For those who can and will, please help me open the meeting with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the
serenity
to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen and amen. Okay, I'm a grateful alcoholic. My name's Kip. I'd like to welcome everyone to the AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting. We meet here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And help us get started with this meeting, I've asked some friends. Let's get this going here to read the preamble. Tommy, Alan, the steps, Fred, the traditions, and the 24 hours a day, Martha.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I am an alcoholic. My name is Tommy, and this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you for letting me read.
Okay, I got to stop this and get Alan unmuted. All right, Alan, you're up, brother. Steps.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I'm Alan, I'm alcoholic. I had the 12 steps of alcohol with none. Number one, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number four, made a certain fearless more inventory of ourselves. Number five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the acts nature of our own. Number six, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number seven, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when they do so will injure them or others. Number 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sorted through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thanks for letting me read.
Hi, my name's Fred and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Fred.
12 traditions. Number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God. As He may express Himself in our group conscious, our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, each AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create special service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never to be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Thanks, guys.
Is that me? Hi, my name is Martha. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Martha.
Wednesday, July 1st, thought for the day. In following the AA program with its 12 steps, we have the advantage of a better understanding of our problems. Day after day, our sobriety results in the formation of new habits, normal habits. As each 24-hour period ends, we find that the business of staying sober is much less trying and fearsome ordeal than it seemed in the beginning. Do I find it easier as I go along? Meditation for the day. Learn daily the lesson of trust and calm in the midst of the storms of life. Whatever sorrow or difficulty the day may bring, God's command to you is the same. Be grateful, humble, calm, and loving to all people. Leave each soul the better for having met you or heard you. For all kinds of people, this should be your attitude. A loving desire to help and an infectious spirit of calmness and trust in God. You have the answer to loneliness and fear, which is calm faith in the goodness and purpose in the universe. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be calm in the midst of storms. I pray that I may pass on this calmness to others who are lonely and full of fear. Thanks.
Thanks, Martha.
All right. I'd like to thank all the readers for reading. Again, welcome everyone to the AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting. Love you guys. I appreciate y'all being patient with me. I just had a little bit of meltdown there, just a little bit, not a whole lot. We got through it, and all's well with the world. I'm not gonna take up a lot of time here. I just want to say next week we got Georgia from California. She's going to be speaking on my birthday. I'll be celebrating 10 years next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So those can come help me celebrate. That'd be wonderful. But without further ado, while we're here, not to hear from me, but we're going to listen to Lyle tonight. I'll let him tell his story. I could introduce him and tell y'all a bunch of wonderful things that I know about him, but I'm just been so looking forward to hearing your story. Lyle, thank you for saying yes. We appreciate it. Without further ado, we give you Lyle P. from Atlanta, right?
So my name's Lyle, and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I live in Stockbridge, Georgia. It's on the edge of Atlanta. Every time someone, for some reason, it reminds me that several years ago, I showed up at some of these AA conventions, and they had my home wrong. They had one time I showed up and it said Stonebridge, Georgia. And then the other time I showed up, it said Stockton, Georgia. You know, these are not big deals. I mean, I'm sober, so I know where I live. But the best one that happened was over in England. And Barbara and I were over there, and they had me down as being from Stockingbridge, Georgia. I'd never seen that before. Stockingbridge, Georgia. And it was driving the Brits crazy. And they were saying, well, where is Stockingbridge? I told them it's just across the state line from Pantyhose, Alabama. And so we got past that okay. But it's good to be here with everybody. I appreciate being asked to do this. I was thinking about this earlier and thinking how important it is that we share our stories. Because when I began this journey in AA a little over 30 years ago, I didn't have any hope, none, zero, it was gone. I didn't even have a whisper, the faintest shadow of a hope. And then I started hearing the stories, and there's something about looking in another alcoholic's eyes when they're talking to you that tells me that what I'm hearing is truthful. And I couldn't believe these stories. These were amazing stories. And if I'd only heard 3 or half a dozen, thanks, sweetie. If I'd only heard 3 or half a dozen stories, I would have thought, what are the chances? So what? But I heard these stories, and these stories were consistently full of miracles. And so I began to think, maybe this is something that happens inside of this program and this fellowship. Maybe this is more the norm than the exception. And I found that to be true. Now, in the story that I'm getting ready to get into here shortly, I want to make something clear up front. First of all, I'm going to talk about a lot of impossibilities. Mostly, you're not going to hear most of the story because I'm watching a timer here, and it takes me just a little bit over an hour to get through the story, and I'm rushing through here, and you're still going to hear about 30% of the whole story, which I find amazing because as I talk about these things, I am mentally trying to filter out what I can say, what I can't say, what I don't have time to go into. And when I first got here, my story was going to be about 5 minutes long because it was over before it began. It was a slam dunk over situation. And so I find it really gratifying that I have to sit here tonight with a timer and try to filter out and sort out what I can talk about and what I can't talk about in the interest of time, because so much happened. So much happened. And I couldn't have predicted any of it. And I get no personal credit for any of it. None. All I did was follow the suggestions that every brand new alcoholic gets when they show up here at AA. We're suggested that we get a sponsor, that we get a home group, that we work the steps with a sponsor, that we get involved in some service group work, and that we become committed to this fellowship and this program. That's all I did. That's all I did. Throughout the course of the story I'm going to tell, there were no great big Hollywood moments. There were no great big dramatic breakthrough instances. There was just the dull, drab, boring, next right thing, a million times over, one foot in front of the other, over and over and over and over. And eventually things happened. Things happened. And I had no control over it. So it's why it's easy for me to say I get no credit for this, because I didn't have any power. I didn't have the power to stop what was coming my way from the moment of the arrest that I'll talk about. And I couldn't stop or change or alter any of those, or I certainly would have. Nor did I have the power later to manufacture and orchestrate all of the miracles that came my way. This thing called grace is something that's hard for me to get my mind around. I read a definition of it, a gift that can never be earned, merited, or deserved. So how does that happen? How does it happen? And the answer is, I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm eternally grateful for it. I'll tell you that my sobriety date is March the 7th, 1990. So I'm a little over 30 years sober. That sounds like a lot when I hear it applied to somebody else. It doesn't sound like a whole lot when I look at it in terms of my own sobriety. I feel actually a lot more like I'm 4 or 5 years into this program. My sobriety is still fresh and vibrant. It doesn't feel like I'm an old timer. I still feel like I'm just getting here, that I'm really enthusiastic about this whole thing. Now, I have a deep love for Alcoholics Anonymous, the people in it. And let me tell you something, that was not always so. In 1975, I was sentenced to a year of AA when I lived in Minnesota for a DWI that I'd gotten. And a DWI in 1975 was no big deal, especially up there in Minnesota. You got a lawyer, you paid a $300 fine, you walked out with a careless driving charge, and that was it. But the judge that I drew apparently must have had some association with AA, or may have been in it himself, because he said, I'll let you do that, but only after you go to AA for a year, which I absolutely rebelled at. Thought it was a horrible miscarriage of justice to even think that I needed to go to AA. But eventually I did. Now, the FAA was not cross-checking pilot licenses against driver's licenses at that time, so I didn't have that hanging over me. I just didn't think it was a good idea to have a DWI on my record. And I very reluctantly agreed to do this. And then I quickly figured out a way to outsmart the system and the people in AA, because I'd been to an AA meeting or two, and I hated it. I hated the meetings. I hated the people in it. I thought it was a cult. I thought the people that I'm talking to and being exposed to are fanatics. They're non-drinking, born-again fanatic zealots about alcohol. And I did not belong there. I didn't want to be there. And when I fly around the country, first thing I do when I get into a hotel room is pull out the phone book and write down the name, address, and phone number of the local AA meeting, then make up some fictitious meeting because I knew the format. And I'd turn all those in, and about once or twice a month, I'd actually go to an AA meeting where I lived. And I got to tell you, it was the worst hour of my entire life. I'd rather have somebody pull a fingernail out than have to go to one of those stinking lousy AA meetings. And then somebody would say something to me in the meeting. I didn't like them either. It was all I could do not to fight or punch somebody out, because I thought, well, that's not going to look good. And I'd come home from the meeting, I'd be so upset, I'd just be chewing nails. I tell Barbara, that's the most effed up bunch of people I have seen in my entire life. I say, for crying out loud, they can't figure it out. I said, they lose their homes, their cars, their wives, their kids, and they just can't, they sit around and talk about it. I say, for God's sake, let's have a couple of drinks. And I'd have 2 or 3 or 4 drinks just to chill out and come down. That's a far cry from where I am today. Far cry from where I am today. Because 15 years later, when the wheels all came off at one time, I mean, everything that happened to me in one fell swoop. Man, my life turned upside down and burned to the ground in the blink of an eye. Most of us get here because we get bled to death along the way. We lose this, we lose that, we have these experiences. I had a lot of experiences, but later, as I got into treatment and started looking back on a first step exercise, I had escaped the consequences on all of them. I had a few car accidents. They were all single car accidents. No cops showed up. I didn't have any problems with that. I didn't hurt anybody. I dodged a whole bunch of bullets that I wasn't aware of until later. But when I got here the second time, and my life was gone, destroyed, I could hear what I could never hear before. I could see what I couldn't see before. I did not want to be an alcoholic. But the fact was that I couldn't sleep at night, and I'm playing back all the things that I've heard the patients say, the doctors say, the counselors say, and whether I liked it or not, they fit. And I fit right in the middle of it. So I couldn't deny it, and I didn't. We started this thing by telling you that I told you March the 7th was my date of my last drinks. On March the 8th, an event took place that had never happened before, and that is an airline crew of 3 pilots were arrested for flying from Fargo, North Dakota to the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul International Airport. They were arrested for flying under the influence of alcohol, and I was the captain of that flight crew. Normally, when we're talking about our stories, what we did for a living or career is immaterial. It's not relevant. And it wouldn't be in this case, except for the fact that that was the one factor that propelled this story into the headlines and the blitzkrieg of media coverage that went on forever. Thought it would never quit. I was the first airline pilot ever arrested, tried, convicted, sentenced, and sent to federal prison for flying under the influence. I flew a Boeing 727 with 58 passengers from Fargo, North Dakota to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's interesting now when pilots get in trouble with alcohol, you don't see them on day two. It's old hat news. This is old stuff by now. But when it happened to me and I was the #1 first guy, let me tell you, the media got on this and I thought they would never get off of it. There were times when I watched this thing happen. First, I was the lead story locally, nationally. And I thought to myself a couple of times, I thought, my God, I don't think Pearl Harbor got as much coverage as I'm getting. And it was relentless. I spent 12 hours that day on March the 8th, arrested. And I can tell you that the first thing I felt when I walked off the airplane, and I saw 2 uniformed airport police officers. I saw FAA officials. I saw highly placed Northwest management officials. And I knew what the outcome of this story was going to be. Because Northwest Airlines was the only major carrier at that time that did not have a program for alcoholic pilots. All the major carriers have had this very quiet, under the radar program called the HIMSS program that goes back into the mid 70s, 1973. And alcoholic pilots go through that program. And at this, as we sit here right now, there have been over 6,800 recovering alcoholic pilots put back in the cockpits of America's airliners. And the FAA will tell you that there is, to this date, there has never been one single incident, accident or incident involving one of those pilots. The success rate is phenomenal. But Northwest Airlines had chosen not to participate. And so every few years, I'd see some pilot get in trouble. And when that happened, the outcome was swift. It was just like a bomb burst right in the middle of the pilot and flight attendant ranks. That pilot was fired, terminated, never came back. Those stories just ripped through the airline like wildfire. And over the course of the 12 hours that I was detained that day, I had a million tumbling thoughts. And one of them was, that's how I leave this airline. That's my legacy here. And that is the exact opposite of the trajectory of my life as I've lived it. I did not live a life to end up shamed, disgraced, dishonored, and publicly humiliated. That's not what I've ever been about. However, I have a disease called alcoholism, and I can't outlast it. I cannot outlast it, one way or the other. Eventually, at some point, it's going to take me down. Fortunately, it's a disease that I've learned how I can pleasantly, with a terrific life, I can live with it, or I can do as so many do, and I can die from it. I've watched many, many people. I think the count right now is 45 of my friends and family, not just AA people that I know about. That the number goes up. Friends and family, 45 people died directly from alcohol. None of those deaths have been pretty. Both of my parents died from this disease. I have 2 suicides in my family from alcohol and drugs. Fortunately, I've got a son that's recovering. It's a little over 9 years sobriety now. I thought he was going to be another death number. Took him 17 years and 4 tries. But he's a little over 9 years sober now. And he and I and Barbara have never been closer at any time in his life or mine. So I'm aware that this is a wonderful disease to have if you recover from it. It is the worst disease, I think, if you don't. Because not only does the person with it die and die a horrible death, suicide on the installment plan, but we bring massive amounts of suffering to our wives, our children, our friends, our family, and anybody who loves us. Thank God We have AA, we have 12 steps, and we have a way to recover. Not only do we recover, we thrive. We thrive. And that's what my journey has been, and I'm grateful for it. I was detained for 12 hours a day. Surreal. There were times I thought I was watching an out-of-body experience occurred. But this could not be happening. I kept thinking this cannot be happening to me. But it was. And I have those gut grinding moments of reality where it was all I could do to sit there in these rooms with all these people and not throw up. I was just sick that this was happening to me. Used to try to describe the shame that I felt. And the big book says it shortly, succinctly, and better than anything I could come up with. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And it was all of that. It was certainly all of that. I was finally released. We gave blood at 2 different facilities, and a reporter saw us at the second facility, saw all these uniformed people, and that's how the story broke to the public. Now, I didn't know that was going to happen at that moment in time. The idea that I was going to leave Northwest Airlines and all the people were going to attach my name to this story was devastatingly powerful to me. I mean, I felt it in my bone marrow. I had no idea it was going to go all over the public sector at this point in time, that I'm going to end up in the tabloids. I'm going to end up on the late night comics, monologues, people laughing. I'm dying and they're laughing. I didn't know any of this was going to happen. I got back to an apartment that night after the arrest, 12-hour day. I called Barbara, and for the first time it dawned on me, I'm supposed to be home tonight. And she spent 4 hours out at the airport waiting on me. I didn't show up, obviously. And I left a message and I said, there's been a disaster. I think I've lost my job. I'll be home the first flight in the morning. Don't know why she didn't call me back, but I was grateful she didn't, because I was so sick at heart. I just didn't want to talk about this. I got home the first flight in the morning, next morning, exited the airport very quickly. I knew everybody out there, the agents, baggage handlers, groomers, and everybody. And I used to laugh and joke and talk with them. I didn't want anybody to see me, speak to me, stop me or anything. So I scrambled out of there quickly, got to the front of the airport, saw Barbara parked off by the curb. It's now Friday, March the 9th. I've never told a story, but what I haven't said, that I was so ashamed that I felt like I had to climb over the curb to get in the car with my wife. And she and I had been married a long time, and I couldn't look at her. Could not look at Barbara. And she pulled away from the curb, and all I could say is, honey, I'm so sorry. She's got a very soft South Texas voice. And she said, as we pulled away, who better than I could possibly understand how you might feel right now? We drove home in silence. Later, I was grateful that she didn't say, why did you stay? You've seen this before. You knew the Northwest policy. Why didn't you go back to your hotel room? These were all questions that made sense and that she had a right to ask, and I didn't have an answer for any of them. Thank God she didn't say anything to me. We just drove home in silence. She went to work, and I went inside. I did not want to be in my skin. And a few moments later, I called the only person I could think of to call, who was a PhD family therapist who gets into the story here in a little bit. Excuse me. And I called him and I said, I need to declare an emergency. I need to see you right away. He said, I'll clear the calendar, come straight in. So I did. It was a long time ago, but I can still see that office as clearly as if I was just walking into it right now. Pardon me. Now, so I walked in there. Excuse me. I walked in there and I just told him straight out what had happened. If there was anything good about what had happened, it's that I'm completely done. I'm beaten. I'm defeated. I have no more will to fight or resist. So I just told him straight out what had happened. I'm going to hear 2 comments on this day that I could not mentally process. And I heard the first one now. The first thing he did was he kind of pulled back. He was shocked and he kind of recoiled a little bit. And he said, God, Lyle, he said, this is horrible, just horrible. And he started around his desk and he stopped and he turned and he looked at me. He turned to his left. And he said, but maybe this is what had to happen. That was the first comment I heard that I couldn't process. I thought, what's that got to do with anything? I have no idea why he would say that to me. I couldn't connect it to anything, and I didn't respond. He came back a few minutes later, and he said, I just talked to a doctor I want you to go see tonight. He's on the other side of Atlanta. He's a recovering alcoholic and cocaine addict. He's one of the prominent psychiatrists here in the Atlanta area, and he's certified in addiction medicine. I had never even heard of addiction medicine. The appointment was set for 6 o'clock that night. And I do, even in the condition I was in, mentally shredded. I know that doctors don't typically see patients at 6 o'clock on Friday nights. And I picked up on that. Some years later, that maybe a year or two later, that same doctor told me, he said, based on your appearance, he said, I was so afraid you were a suicide. And he said, it was vital and imperative that we get you over to see that man. Barbara and I went over there, and I have no real memory of that meeting. It's just like an alcoholic blackout, and I've had many of those. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink for 2 days. So, but I remember that anytime he asked me a question, I gave him a straight answer as best I could. I didn't dodge or duck anything. And I'm sure he took a family history. I'm sure he asked me all about that. I don't remember specifically that he did, but I'm sure he did. At some point in time, he looked at me and said, Lyle, he said, you're an alcoholic. You need to get into treatment tonight. I didn't have a reaction to that. And that was significant because I hated alcoholics. I've hated alcoholics since I saw my two parents die from it, saw what happened in the family. I've seen the alcoholics around the country, passed out in the doorways, in the alleyways, passed out on park grass. I've seen it in my native community. Alcoholics were the dregs of society. They were the losers, the non-achievers, the non-hackers. And I had no reaction when he told me that I was an alcoholic. And I'll go to my grave, never really understanding what happened in the 24 hours since the arrest, when way down deep inside, internally, all the dots got connected. I knew way down deep. And I said to him, I said, I thought you were telling me that, and I'm okay with it. But I said, I just got home tonight. I said, please let me go home. Let Barbara hang on to me. I said, let my mind uncoil. Let me just absorb what's happened to me. I'll go into treatment. He said, you need to go into treatment tonight. I took a deep breath. I looked at him. I said, okay. So we drove back across Atlanta, and I went into the treatment center with the clothes on my back. Do not stop, go. Do not stop. Do not pass, go. I just went straight to the treatment center. As we made the final turn, there was a sign there. The headlight swept the sign. I hit the brakes and stopped. And the sign said, it was right in front of me. The sign said Anchor Hospital, a hospital for alcoholism and other chemical dependencies. And with the sign right there and the lights right there and me looking at the sign, the reality hit, and it was like somebody had just kicked me in the guts. And I thought to myself, my God Almighty, I'm going into a treatment center for alcoholics. My life ends tonight in this place. What happened? How could this be? And I had a little quick mini flashback over my life and the really high points in it, achievements and accomplishments that I was very proud of. And it was like they had never even occurred, and I wasn't sure they had at that moment. And I remember sitting there with zero self-worth. My value as a human being was nothing, was zero, zip. Some years later, I read a summarizing paragraph at the end of a long medical report on me. It said, given the history and background of this man, it was unlikely to believe he would ever be a productive member of society. I thought that was pretty dismal. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm the one that provided all the information for that. So we started down the hill into the treatment center. And for the first time that day, due to the trauma, for the first time that day, it occurred to me, this is March the 9th. This is my wedding anniversary. This is my 27th wedding anniversary. And I said to Barbara, hell of a way to spend an anniversary, huh? I then heard the second statement I couldn't fathom. Very softly, she said, "Might be the best one we ever had." I could not respond to that. There was no question that my life was over. It could never be put back together again. I knew that. No pilot had ever come back from this. And the others that I had watched, their situations weren't even 10% as bad as mine was. And so it was over, and I knew it was over. And I could not understand how she could come up with a thought like that at a moment like this. Let me break this up a little bit and tell you, some years back, March the 9th rolled around. It was a gorgeous Georgia morning here at 9 a.m. And we've got 7 acres and we live up a long driveway. And I walked outside, and up the driveway came one of my sponsees, which surprised me. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "It's March the 9th. He said, "I've heard the story." So he said, "I just wanted to kind of surprise you and Barbara, come by and wish you a happy anniversary." So we went inside. Barbara had coffee and we were all just sitting around talking. And he said, "What's the secret for having stayed married so long?" Before I had a chance to respond, Barbara said, "I think it's mostly due to the fact that I could just never stand to admit I'd made a mistake." So we talk about character defects, and I'm grateful for hers. So as long as she retains that one, we may make it a few more years. I also told her one time that this was an ego deflating program. She seized on that. She likes that part. And I had just come back from speaking at Whitworth Women's Prison. And it was about a 3-hour drive. And while I was there, I've been there before. While I was there, I was starting to talk, and just getting into the story. And there was one of the ladies, and they're hard-looking gals, 25 or 30 of them. They're in these oversized khaki scrubs, and there's no makeup, no hair done. I mean, it's a hard-looking bunch. And I'm just starting to get in the story. And one of them off to my right front yells out. She goes, "You're hot," which really surprised me. I'd never had that happen before. So it just stops me right in the middle of the story before I can get picked up again. There are 2 or 3 off to the left front, and they yell out, "Yeah, you're hot. You're hot." So anyway, I get through the rest of the story. It was an amazing thing. I'd never seen that before. And I get home, and Barbara's asleep. The next morning, we're having coffee, and I'm thinking to myself, she probably ought to be aware of this. And so I tell her this story, tell her about it. She's taking a sip of coffee. I'm waiting on a reaction, and finally she finishes her coffee, and she looks at me. She says, "They must have been locked up a really long time." So her job of making sure my ego doesn't get out of check is in good hands. We do a lot of laughing. Barbara and I laugh a lot. A lot of it's at my expense, but I'm good with that. I love being able to laugh at myself, and she provides a lot of opportunity for that. Let me tell you that I was born in Wichita, Kansas in September 1938, and which means I'm 81 right now, coming up on 82 pretty quick. I still feel probably like I'm in my 50s. I'm still a passionate outdoors hunter, fisherman. I'm still flying a little airplane, still living life in all 360 degrees. I know I'm going to wear out at some point, but until that happens, I'll just keep riding the train. I grew up in a World War II housing project on the edge of Wichita called Plainview. It's a very economically depressed area. And yet I'll tell you this, the best memories of my entire childhood took place there in Plainview. We were all alike. None of us had anything. And I was a happy child at that point in time. It was a diverse community, blacks, whites, Hispanics, a small Native American segment, and we all got along. Nobody had trouble out there that I remember as a young child growing up, graduated high school there. We all got along. I don't remember seeing a cop car on a trouble call more than 1 or 2 times in my entire time there in Plainview. I was part of the Native American segment. I'm an ethnic mixture of several different things, but the parts that really enjoy the booze are the Irish and Comanche parts. I was very active in my native culture. I was active in the powwows. I was a dancer. I've gone back to that since I've gotten sober. I'm active in Native American sobriety programs, things we call the Red Road. And that was never in place when I was a child. Did not ever see a program like that. Certainly nothing for Indian people. At any rate, when I was 14, the alcohol had done its job big time in my family. I never do one of these talks, but what I don't say that I'm really indebted to my parents, and I owe them a debt. And I acknowledge that debt because I say they weren't drunk all the time. And during the time before the alcohol took them, they gave me and my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, some really good stuff that I've still got that has stood me in good stead my entire life. And I'm indebted to them for that. But the alcohol wrecked the family when I was 14, big time. And I got a divorce. And in the next 3 years, each of them were married and divorced 2 more times. And I didn't get along in blended families. So I was constantly bouncing from one to the other, going through high school like that. And graduated when I was 17 and had decided I was going to join the service. Not too many people from my area went to college. Few did, but not many. And I was going to join the service. I had just turned 18. And one of my friends came back from the Marine Corps, and I was really impressed. He was right out of Marine Corps boot camp. So he and I sat around for several hours drinking beer one afternoon, and he regaled me with nonstop stories of what Marine drill instructors do to their recruits. And these were harsh, cruel, brutal, sadistic stories. And I was hanging on the edge of them. And I thought, I just can't wait to go do that. And within a couple of days, I'd signed on the line and off I go into the Marine Corps. A lot of stories I hear involve, I never fit in. You won't hear that from me. The other ones are sometimes that I found the minute I took the first drink of alcohol, man, I was off and running. I found what I wanted. That wasn't true for me either. I liked the way it felt. I never liked the taste of it. I did like the ease and comfort, but I think normal people like that as well. But alcoholics, I read some kind of a study one time said we like it 5 to 8 times more than normal people. I have no way of knowing that. I think that they're experiencing the same thing I am when I drink, but they're not. So off I went into the Marine Corps. And Marine Corps boot camp is a standalone, one-of-a-kind experience. And I mean, no disrespect to the other services, but it is extreme and it is intense. And you better, by God, want to be there or they don't want you there. And it was competitive. And I had vowed that I needed to make, I did not want to flunk out or not make it. And as I would come up on the 13th week, our final week there, drill instructors called out the 3 top names of the 3 top people in the platoon. My name was the second one called. I had no idea. I'd never achieved or accomplished anything like that, especially under conditions like that. So I get 1 stripe, private first class stripe. Not a big deal. Private first class isn't a high rank. But compared to the buddies around me that had slick sleeves, that stripe meant something. I remember being in a Quonset hut. My buddies were outside, rain, walking guard duty. I was inside because I was acting corporal of the guard with that 1 stripe. And I saw a first lieutenant's uniform off there, and I kicked my chair back, and I thought, man, at the rate I'm going, general's not that far away. And I'm staying. I had found a home because I had never experienced anything like that sense of brotherhood that the Marine Corps is famous for. That esprit de corps, that camaraderie, that inextricable linking of one Marine to another. And that's a lifetime thing. And it captured me. And that's where I was going to stay, and that's what I was going to do. Now, my drinking, I don't have a time for a big, long drinking drunk-a-log. I've got one, but I can either spend the time talking about that or get through the rest of the story. My drunk-a-logs are pretty much like everybody else's. I drank too much. Things happened to me. I woke up in places I didn't know where I was or how I got there. I lost cars. I got in fights. Had some car accidents I told you about. I had 2 DWIs, separated by about 5 years. I was convinced every time something happened to me, it was alcohol related. My personal mantra was that could happen to anybody. It could happen to anybody. And to a large degree, a lot of that was true. But when I got into treatment and I had to make this long, several-page list of events that I'd been involved in that were alcohol related, I thought, my God, they can't all happen to one person. So I saw it at that point. But talking about the 2 DWIs, I got a good Indian buddy who said he was in court for his number 6 DWI before he learned that did not stand for drinking with Indians. At any rate, I go into the Marine Corps and I'm excelling. My next promotion is meritorious. I go in there after 4.5 years and get called into the commanding officer's office. And he says, you're the only guy in the unit whose entry score is high enough to go test for a new program called Marine Aviation Cadet. which involves flying airplanes. I had always wanted to fly airplanes, but that was never anywhere close on my lifetime reality radar scope. Pilots had to have college, I thought. And he said to me, you can go test if you want to. So I did, and I passed. He said, the other thing you need to know is that this is an 18-month program. It is highly accelerated. On average, plus or minus, about half don't make it. And he said, you're coming in the back door because you're an enlisted Marine. The people coming in from the civilian side, which would be about 98, 99% of them, all have to have 2 years college minimum to enter this program. Most of them will have more than that, and those will be the people that you'll be in this program with. So I knew I had a good chance of not making it because I'm starting off. I'm a marginal high school graduate, and I know I got a good chance of not completing, but I wanted to try. I went home to Wichita. They were having a powwow. They called for an honoring dance for me because I was going to Pensacola the next day. I went out and led it. And for the rest of the time, all the way through flight training, I was driven with the program, with the idea that I cannot go back to this community and tell them I'm back early because I washed out, I flunked out, I couldn't hack it. Because I'm the only guy in this community that's getting an opportunity to get those gold wings and those gold bars, and I cannot go back as a failure. And I was driven with that. There were 4 phases of flight training at that time, and in every one of those phases, I was the number 2 guy. And I never expected it. I was always surprised. I never got cocky or confident or complacent. I don't believe I'm doing as well as my grades seem to indicate. I just don't feel it. I don't believe it. And I'm watching my friends wash out weekly, sometimes daily. I'm watching them come to me and their hearts are broken. And they want to fly as much as I do. And for some reason, they're not going to be able to. And every time they walk away, I think that'll be me before this is over. And I just kept pushing on. One of the things my parents gave me is a work ethic. And I will work myself to the bone to achieve and accomplish and go the extra mile. I'm willing to do that. The last 6 months, went to Beeville, Texas for advanced jet flight training. Hooked up with my buddies the night I got into town Friday night. We all got drunk at the Officers Club, and then we went into town to a little drive-in that hosted all the little good-looking South Texas girls. And they went after a carload of girls. I kind of hung back. I couldn't see the driver, but I was having some drinks, trying to rehearse some things to say. I approached her. I thought I had some really good stuff. And the minute I walked up there, she turned, she looked at me, and she was a pretty girl, and everything just vacated. And all I could see were those brown eyes that just, I thought, were beautiful brown eyes. And I hadn't been doing much talking. So it came out all slurred and sideways, something like, brown eyes. And she looked at me and pulled back like I just peed on the side of her car. And I was embarrassed. I heard myself talk and it didn't make any sense. And I knew it. And I just turned around and walked away, embarrassed. A little while later, she got out of the car and went inside, and I got a look at her. She was going inside there. I had an A. Thought she had cute butt, turquoise shorts, pretty legs. And I thought, man, I want what she has. I'm willing to go to any lengths to get it. So 29 years later, when I got here and I heard that, I thought, I remember that. She began to date, and she and I began to date. I had a run-in with her the next day, an encounter. And on February 25th of 1963, which was her 20th birthday, she pinned a set of gold wings over my chest, right over my heart, 2 gold bars on my shoulders. And man, Hollywood could not have scripted a better day. I could now go home. I had survived, I had achieved, I had accomplished, I'd done it well. And I got my wings and my gold bars. I'm a long way from being that barely 18-year-old private kid that entered the Marine Corps. I'm now a commissioned Marine Corps officer and fighter pilot. Long way, long way. And I've had a good ride so far. We go home to Wichita for 3 weeks leave. She's staying with my sisters. The leave comes to an end. I called her and I said, you're going back to Texas. I got orders to California. Let's go. Let's run down to Oklahoma and get married. So we did. Small town called Newkirk, Oklahoma, stood in front of a justice of the peace, and we got married. March 9th just passed. It was number 57 for us. So she has signed on for the long haul. We got to El Toro. She was immediately pregnant, which I thought was part of my Marine Corps obligation. And we had 2 little baby boys, 8 days less than a year apart. She went home with those 2 little babies. I went to Vietnam. We were one of the first jet squadrons into Vietnam, flying out of a place called Chu Lai, 50 miles south of Da Nang. Now I want to just stop and tell you here. My drinking is picking up all the way through here. When I was a cadet, every Friday and Saturday night, I was just running 100 miles an hour with my buddies. We were all drinking, just going crazy, chasing girls and having all this fun. I mean, 100 miles an hour. Sunday, however, I was sober because I wanted those gold wings. I had not reached the point where I could not control my drinking. I loved to drink, but I wanted the gold wings at that point in time more than I wanted to drink. So Sunday, I'm sobered up and getting ready for Monday and the upcoming week of flying. Went to Vietnam. I put in for a regular commission. I knew I wouldn't get one even when I filled out the paperwork. Marine Corps doesn't want to give officers a regular commission, which guarantees a career, unless they've got college, hopefully a college degree. I had no college. And regular commissions were very competitive back then. And I'll be darned, I got a regular commission. And I look at it and go, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I expect of me. That's what others expect of me. They don't expect me to go into a bar in Fargo, North Dakota and become the greatest pariah in all of American commercial aviation history. No pilot before or since has done the damage that I did to an airline and to a profession. There has not even been a close second. I was the perfect storm at that moment in time. And I'm not supposed to do that. But I'm an alcoholic. And pretty soon, the disease overmatches my intentions, my desires, my hopes. And I'm subject to what I'm going to do. Once I take that drink, I'm off and running. I'm off and running. I came back from Vietnam. I had a very, very good, very enviable military resume. Decided to get out of the service because I was going to be gone from my kids for 4 to 6 years if I completed this career that I wanted. Barbara didn't push me to get out, but I decided I needed to put the family first. So I resigned that commission, and 3 weeks later, I was in class at Northwest Airlines. For nearly 22 years at Northwest, I had the same kind of career. I loved going to work. I loved the people I flew with, both in the front and the back. It was a fun job. I couldn't wait to go do it. We're all drinking. We're all drinking. First, I was a young Marine, supposed to be tough and hard and able to drink. Then I was a fighter pilot, supposed to be able to fly hard, play hard, party hard. Then I'm in the airline, same thing there. I distinctly remember when I began to pull away from the group. I remember an evening in which I began to pull away from the group. They couldn't drink like I did. And I was embarrassed for them. I thought, God, I hope that never happens to me. I walked out of that establishment. They all had 2 or 3 drinks in front of them. I'm done and on my way to the next place. I thought, man, I hope that never happens to me. And of course, as an alcoholic, it wasn't about to. We got to the Northwest Airlines. Barbara wanted a little girl, a daughter. So we decided to adopt. And because we had the 2 boys, it was a battle. We spent a 14-month battle adopting this little Indian girl who came to our house when she was 17 days old. Named her Dawn. I had those 2 rough and tumble boys, but boy, I had never had any idea what a little girl does to her dad. She became the center of my universe. I loved that little girl. And when she was 17, she ran away from home. I didn't see it coming. One of the reasons I had such a problem believing I was an alcoholic was I didn't drink every night. I varied my drinking patterns. I did it on purpose. I didn't get drunk every weekend. I never drank I drank 3 mornings over the course of a year. 4th of July, Labor Day, and Memorial Day. And I knew alcoholics drank in the mornings all the time because I'd seen it on TV and in the movies. And I was a happy drunk. I didn't beat or abuse my wife and family. Now, I'm not trying to make my alcoholism sound okay. It is not okay because there were plenty of other things that I did that were not good. But I had all of these arguments about why I could not possibly be an alcoholic. I even came up with 2 or 3 tests to see if I was. Built out of no information, total ignorance of the disease of alcoholism, but I formulated these tests and I passed all of them, of course. I get into treatment, they told me most normal drinkers don't feel compelled to devise tests. I thought, well, shoot, who knew? At any rate, I'm coming up to be a captain. I passed up being a captain for 2 years because I wanted to be home with Dawn while she finished up school and then headed for college. I was so happy, so proud, so pleased that I could send my kids to college. Something I didn't have the opportunity for, but I could provide it for them. And I was just happy as I could be about that. And I thought she was going to go to college. And when she was on her way up to coming up on graduation, I went to Chicago to take a special written test so I could be a captain. That afternoon, she grabbed some stuff, left a note, and ran away. I called home the next day. Barbara told me what had happened, and I panicked. I could not believe my little girl, this beautiful little daughter of mine, is out there someplace, and I don't know what's happening to her. And I blurted out where to go, who to call, where to look. And I got on the airplane in Chicago. It's a 2-hour flight home. I don't know what happened to me there. I'm not aware of anything changing or feeling anything different, but it happened because when I got off the airplane, I was no longer panicked and afraid. I hated her. And I mean, I didn't know that I had the capacity to hate as much as I hated. It was white hot. And I told Barbara, I said, I don't care if she dies in the streets. She'll never come back to my house. And I would never want her name mentioned in front of me ever again for the rest of my life. The next 2 days, everything she'd ever owned inside that house had gone to Goodwill. There was no physical trace that she'd ever even been there. I went to the bank and I ripped up her adoption papers. I went to an attorney and gave him $500 and disowned her. I tried to annul the adoption and I couldn't. And in the midst of all of this, I'm looking around thinking, Barbara doesn't seem to be handling this too well. She probably needs a therapist. And I got in the yellow pages, and by the luck of the draw, I got this PhD doctor, family therapist out that was very good. We saw him twice a month for almost 2 years. I didn't like talking about my daughter. And one time he was trying to get me to talk, and a comment flew out of my mouth that was completely spontaneous. I don't remember ever forming the thought. But I looked at him and I said, I'm going to tell you something, doctor. I would rather hate than hurt. And he said, you swear I just childhood doing that. And he said, if you continue, it'll destroy you. And he was right. I was not aware of that until I got into treatment. And then I saw it. And it created some cruel moments for Barbara that she didn't deserve, because I wouldn't allow myself to get vulnerable or get hurt. Because if I got close to the edge on any of that, up came the anger. I got angry. Anger's a manly feeling. Being hurt, being in pain, that is not. And so I blocked it with anger, and I did it successfully, but it came at a heck of a price. The alcohol quit working for me. I no longer wanted to go anywhere with the crew or do anything. I knew where every liquor store was and every place we landed and laid over throughout the entire United States. I knew how long it took me to get to the store to get a quart of booze and get back to my room. Get back to the room and lock the door, turn the TV on. I wouldn't go to the door. If a crew member knocked, I wouldn't answer the phone if they called. I sit in there and I poured a quart of booze right down my throat real fast. But I could never get that feeling again. That every one of you who are watching and listening to me right now, you know what that feeling is. I could never recapture that again. I never got the relief. From that point on, it might as well have been pouring gasoline down my throat and onto a fire in my belly. Because the minute that first drink hit, man, up came the hatred, the bitterness, the self-pity, the martyrdom, and this long list that I had of all these things that I'd done for this little girl over the course of 17 years. And look how she paid me back. And by the time I get to the end of the bottle, I am emotionally wasted and exhausted. And the next night in a different town, I'll do the same thing again and again and again and again. And I never got any relief. Never got any relief after that. That's pretty much where we were when I was arrested. I went into the treatment center. I didn't want anybody to know who I was or what I was. I was so ashamed. It was a week before anybody even knew the color of my eyes. I could not look up, would not look up. But about day 2 or 3 of treatment, here it is on television. Now everybody knows. Everybody knows. I wouldn't go near either of the 2 TV sets in the treatment center. But patients feel compelled to come report. A week to the day that I'd entered treatment, they announced on TV that Northwest Airlines had terminated me, which they should have. That was fair. The FAA had issued an emergency revocation of all my licenses, and so they're gone. That's fair and appropriate. And I've lost my FAA medical because of my diagnosis of alcoholism. I have no education to fall back on. The only thing I knew how to do was fly an airplane, and it's all gone, and I'm stripped naked of that. Also, about that end of that first week, I walked into a treatment into a room to talk, a group therapy room. And I didn't intend to talk or not to talk. And for some reason, again, I started talking about my daughter, and I didn't have that wall of anger. And I broke down and cried. And I didn't cry. I hadn't cried at my parents' funerals. I just didn't cry. I did that day because I felt the pain. I felt the pain. And I sobbed in front of a bunch of people. I was so ashamed and embarrassed. But it was a wonderful breakthrough for me. And I wrote to Barbara and I said, yeah, let's get this family back together again. No visitors, no phone calls to this treatment center. And they said, that's such an amazing thing. We'll make an exception if you can do it. The two doctors heard about it and they said, could we please come watch? So on a day not too far distant, I walked in, I saw my daughter for the first time in 2 years, so much smaller than I remembered. And in her arms was a 5-month-old granddaughter I didn't really know anything about. My daughter got married. I didn't even know her last name. My two sons were there. My two doctors were off to the left. And I walked over and told my daughter how much I loved her instead of how much I hated her. Also during this period of time, legal things began to come up. And they couldn't shelter me from these. They wanted to keep me isolated because they want you concentrating on your recovery. Excuse me. They don't want to come in there and say, pardon me, your wife just called, the washer quit working, or she just entered the fender. None of that. They want us focusing on our recovery. But this was serious stuff, and they're having to come tell me. I go through 6 legal crises, about 2 to 3 days apart, every one of them escalating, penalties doubling, the terror filling the room. Smell like they sucked the air out of the room every time they talk about this, and I couldn't breathe. And it's involving jail time. 90 days is a misdemeanor. Then North Dakota, 6 months misdemeanor. Now they double the charges in Minnesota. Now they double the charges in North Dakota. Then the federal marshals are going to come take me out of treatment in handcuffs for an arraignment. And then the last time I go down to the doctor's office and they never had a doctor involved. My counselor's down there and he says, I have to tell you that you're looking at 15 years in federal, you've just been indicted by a federal grand jury. You're looking at 15 years in federal prison, $250,000 fine, and an attorney's coming in. Sunday wants $50,000. We'd gone broke 30 days after the arrest. I'd grown up with nothing. Now I've taken Barbara with me. I didn't have the money. The doctor said to me, he said, I have to ask you if you're going to hurt yourself. And I said, no, I'm not. But I was just numb. It was like every nerve ending in my body shorted out. And I go back to the room and I collapsed. And I remember my head lying on the carpet and I was crying for the second time. And I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I said, not even one more time. I have nothing left. I can't even do it one more time. Please, please help me. And I remember sleeping that night. I had many, many wonderful experiences in treatment because I went in there hoping that there was something to this big book stuff and this 12-step stuff. And the only reason I do these talks is because if there's somebody new out there, you need to know that there is. That this thing works when you leave treatment. This thing works when I leave an AA meeting. This works. And that's what I'm here to tell you. I got out of treatment, was instantly in a very heavily publicized 3-week trial, and just swarmed by the media. Every time I start going someplace, they had every exit, they had every avenue approach covered. And these people are like a pack of animals, yelling at me, throwing camera, putting cameras, sticking cameras in my face and microphones, trying to get a reaction. And every time I would approach them, I would mantra the serenity prayer as many times over and over as I could. I could feel something begin to loosen a little bit. The fear didn't go away, the terror didn't go away, but it helped. We drew the toughest judge in the Minnesota Federal District. I never got a break anywhere along the way. There were precious few times when I had any possibility of having something go one way or the other because I had no control over any of it. But on those few occasions, it never went the way I wanted it to, not once ever. So this judge had strong feelings about this case. And I saw him every day for 3 weeks. And I didn't begrudge him those feelings because I knew I was involved in a horrific betrayal of public trust, and I accepted that. Pardon me. I had an advantage over the other two guys because I'm the alcoholic. I didn't have much sobriety, but I had worked really hard at what I had. And I had enough at that moment in time. And if I wasn't in the courtroom or with the attorneys, I was in an AA meeting. And it was scary because they recognized me. I'm all over the news there. And I would go on these AA meetings and I wouldn't share. I would just sit in there and I would absorb. I might say my name's Lyle and I'm an alcoholic, but I would not share. I just sat in there and there's energy in that room from a room full of alcoholics that infused itself into me, and I took it to the courtroom the next morning. This criminal trial is indescribable because I'm being portrayed as the worst person on the face of the planet, and I can't respond. And once in a while, I look over at Barbara, and our eyes would meet, and she would mouth the words, "I love you." And I would nod, and I'd be okay until the next day. Had an amazing story with an attorney, don't have time for. I told him, I said, I'll be found guilty. I wanted to plead guilty, and he talked me out of it for reasons that made sense. But I said, I'll be found guilty. And when I am, I said, I want you to know it's okay. I'm the captain. Everything comes to me first. The jury goes out. The jury comes right back in. I know what that means, and it's that quick. And I stand up. I'm the first one. I stand up. The verdict comes in, guilty. He's standing to my right, and he flinches. And I reached over and patted him, and I said, it's okay. It's okay. We go back the next month or a couple of months later for the sentencing. My situation went very quickly. You know, you watch these things get arrested. I mean, these arrests take place and it just plays out for 2 years, 3 years, whatever. I was arrested in March. I was in trial in a courtroom, federal courtroom in July and August. I was sentenced in October, and I was in prison in December. So my thing went very, very quickly. I'd been in treatment with a federal judge, and he told me, he says, the sentencing is a charade. He said, you need to know that. He said, you'll talk, your attorney will talk, but when we come in, the sentence is set. We never change from the bench. Other judges around the country have told me that's so. We go in for the sentencing on October the 26th, 1990. The day before that, my attorney called me and he said, the judge just notified the other two attorneys and the media that he's going to depart upwards from the sentencing guidelines, which were 12 to 18 months. And my attorney said he can go all the way to 15 years if he wants. He has that discretion. And I'd watched this judge, and I knew this was going to be big based on his feelings. So I went into the courtroom that morning, completely paralyzed with fear. But I told Barbara, I said, this is step one. I'm powerless over this. I have no control over this. This is about acceptance. When it came time for me to stand up to be sentenced, I stood up. I didn't know what I was going to say because I was that scared. I talked about being grateful to be sober. I was grateful for the things that had happened inside my family. I accepted responsibility for everything that had happened. I couldn't change what had happened some months earlier. I couldn't change what happened yesterday. And the judge announced a sentence on me of 16 months, blew everybody away in the courtroom. 2 months less under the guidelines. Pardon me. Let me get some water here. 2 months less under the guidelines. Then he did something that nobody expected. I'd given all my personal effects to Barbara because I said, I think he'll have us led away for the cameras straight into prison. And he said, this is a complex law. This was the first time it has ever been used, and it was not designed for pilots. And there are legal issues. I'm sure that will be on appeal. He said, I'll let all three of you remain free until your appeals are exhausted. The other two said, okay. I said, no, I'll go right now. Because I'd learned in here that I deal with life on life's terms, not my terms. I desperately did not want to go into prison. I knew I could stay out a year and a half. But I also knew that every night when the sun went down, I'm one day closer to whatever the inevitable is going to be. And it's going to be going to prison. I know that. And I told my kids, I said, I'm scared to death that I can't come out the back door till I go in the front. And I'm going in the front. The judge told my attorney, he said, never before or since have I ever had a defendant say he would go to prison when he could have stayed out on appeal pending. Never once. So on December the 5th of 1990, I walked into the Atlanta Federal Prison System is inmate 04478-041. 34 years to the day that I'd entered Marine Corps boot camp. I spent 424 days in the prison system, one day at a time, shorter when necessary. The judge put sanctions on me on top of everything the FAA had done to make sure that I never flew again, ever. He completely closed the door. A year after I get out of prison, and another story that it's worthwhile, but I don't have time for, he lifted the sanctions on me, and thus the FAA then said, and there wasn't one chance in 10,000 that he would do that, but he did. It's another miracle. And I didn't know why he sentenced me to 16 months. I knew a miracle had happened that time, but he told my attorney in chambers a couple of years later, he said I was going to sentence Lyle to 4 years in prison until I thought about him as a human being, his time in Vietnam, and I came down from the bench. So I knew a miracle had happened. I didn't think I'd ever get an explanation of it. So I came out, I went into prison, had a lot of experiences in there. I don't talk about them from the podium, but I took AA in there with me. There are 12 steps. Each of those steps has a point, place, and a purpose and a principle. And I know how to use them. And that's exactly what I did in prison. And I acquitted myself very well in there. I didn't survive the prison experience and come out the way I did because I'm a tough ex-Marine. I did it because I took the AA program in there with me and I worked the program while I was in prison. Used to have inmates come up to me and go, how do you do what you do in here? How come they can't get to you? Da, 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 da. And it was all due to AA and these 12 steps. I came out, I was broke. I knew that I would never fly again. The FAA then said, after the judge lifted the sanctions, if you want to fly again, you'll start all over again with a private license, literally from the ground up. I'd never had a private license. I came out of the Marine Corps and I got a commercial license with an instrument rating. Not one of my buddies thought it was possible to go back and get all 4 of those ratings, literally from the ground up. But I stay sober one day at a time. I said, I'll do the licenses, one license at a time. And so I did. 10.5 months later, I'd passed the writtens on all 4 licenses. And that is just incredibly difficult. That is not an easy feat. But there's a flying part that goes with each of those licenses, and I can't do it because of the cost. I'm working at the treatment center to save my life. I'm making $14,000 a year, and I am grateful for that job. I'm working in the counseling department, $14,000 a year. Barbara's making $6 an hour in an office supplies place. We're just barely staying alive. I cannot do the flying. Another miracle comes. A pilot at Northwest said, I have a flight school you didn't know anything about, 50 miles northwest of the Twin Cities. Come live with me and my family. Free. I want you to fly the airplanes free and get your tickets back. So I went up there under 13 conditions of probation, checked on the Minnesota Department of Corrections. And for 44 days, I lived with that man and his family. Rained out 14 days, flew 78 hours in the remaining 30 days. And that is a lot of flying in a little airplane. I got the licenses back, had 2 by 11:15 one morning. Don't think that's ever been done before. And if I'm not night flying, I'm in an AA meeting up there in Buffalo, Minnesota. I came back with these licenses now. Another miracle. Nobody thought I could do that. I didn't think I could do that. But I told Barbara, I said, I'm the greatest pariah in all of America. I said, nobody will ever hire me to fly airplanes again. I'll never fly on American soil. A month later, the licenses actually arrived in the mail. And within an hour, the head of the pilot union at Northwest called me. A grievance had been automatically filed because of my termination. I had not activated the grievance, nor was I going to, because Northwest Airlines was justified in terminating me. When you do what you did, you get what you got. And I deserved the termination, and I was going to let it ride. He said, this is the best phone call I've ever made, because he said 3 hours ago, John Dasberg happens to be the president and CEO of Northwest Airlines, man I'd never even seen, made a decision to bring you back and put you in full flight status at Northwest. Tears flooded my cheeks. I could not believe the words coming through the telephone. If a pilot's airline is mentioned even one time publicly, he's done. My airline had been mentioned over and over and over and over and over, egregiously dragged through the mud as a result of what I did. Jay Leno made a living for a good long while on my situation. He also called me in June of '96 and apologized to me. Another story I don't have time for. And this man is going to bring them back, let me fly again. And I thought to myself, my God Almighty, does he know that most of us relapse? That if I go back and relapse after all the publicity, the board of directors will kick him out. He won't even have time to pack his desk. Why would he dare take that kind of a chance or that risk? And I met with him once a year for the next 5 years, and I talked to him about that a lot. I said, I would never have done it. If I'd been officer in charge of risk assessment, I would never have done it. You had everything to lose and nothing to gain. Add to that the fact that his father was an alcoholic who couldn't stay sober, and he still did it. He took a chance that was unbelievable. I went back to Northwest with the idea in mind of being the best employee they ever had. My credentials as a pilot were always good, but now I want to be the best employee he ever had so that he never had an ounce of regret about bringing me back. And I did a good job. I know I did. I retired there in September of '98 at the age of 60. And I had a better reputation than I've ever had before in my life. I was overwhelmingly welcomed back to Northwest. There's always a small segment of people that want your face down in the mud, want you to stay there for the rest of your life. I think that's a small percentage overall. My experiences were amazing with the flight attendants and the pilots. Everywhere I went, somebody was coming up to me and saying, I'm really glad you're back. After I retired, there were about 2 days, and I get a phone call from my attorney. He said, Judge Rosenbaum is now chief judge of the Minnesota Federal District, which I didn't know. And he said, I just got a contact from him. He said in 16 years on the federal bench, he has never supported a petition for pardon. But if you want to make the attempt, he'll support yours. I had never even considered such a thing. The judge wrote a 3-page affidavit that I cannot read, and I've read it many, many times. But if I had to read it here in front of you folks, I'd have tears in my eyes by the time I get to page 3. The paperwork went in, and 2 years later, I came walking in and was told I had a presidential pardon. That is a huge mega event for anybody with a federal felony conviction. A felony conviction, and I get a presidential pardon. Day 2 of treatment, I'm sitting there with my head down, and I start to read the promises. And I perk up a little bit. And then I heard him say, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see our experience can benefit others. And I quit listening. I quit listening because I'm going too far down. That might be true for the person on my right or my left, but it cannot possibly be true for me. And I'm sitting here winding this talk up after an hour, and I don't have time to talk about all the miracles that I've gotten to live out and experience through God's grace and AA. And that's all. Let me close with something that I like because it expresses my thoughts. It just says this: I do not wish you joys without a sorrow, nor endless day without the healing dark, nor brilliant sun without the restful shadow, nor tides that never turn against your bark. I wish you strength and faith and love and wisdom and goods, gold enough to help some needy one. I wish you songs, but also blessed silence, and God's sweet peace when every day is done. My Comanche name is Yetzitanapa, but you know me as Lyle, and I'm an alcoholic, so thank you for letting me spend the evening with you, and thank you for my sobriety. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Lau. If y'all want to unmute yourself and give him a shout out, you can. You can unmute yourself at the present moment.
Yay, what a story. Thank you, Lou.
Very much.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, man. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you so much, man. Awesome.
Made it all
what an
awesome.
inspirational story. Oh,
What an honor.
thank you, Lyle.
Wow.
Listen to you every day. Down my spine.
Wow, that was amazing.
From the U.S. Marshal.
Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to spend the evening.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Thanks, folks.
All right, guys. Thanks for shouting out loud again. Thank you for coming. We so much appreciate it. We love you, man. What a phenomenal story. I can definitely identify with the prison part. I've been there. But we don't have to live that way no more. What a beautiful thing. And you know, if you're new tonight, I just want to just say this real quick. before we close, the 7th tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We're not taking any money at the AA Zoomaholic speaker meeting, but if you would give to your local intergroup or donate to World Services, that would be great. Also, at this time, I've asked Heather, where are you, Heather? Go ahead and unmute yourself right now. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, I got it, Kim. I'm Heather. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you, Lau. My gosh, what an inspiration. What a story.
And one more thing, Heather, if you want to pick up a chip tonight, you can just unmute yourself and holler at the camera and tell us you want to pick up a chip. Thank you, Heather. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kim. So if y'all have heard something tonight that y'all can relate with, you want to give up the high cost of low living, come see about these promises our friend Lyle was telling you about. They do come true. They really do. Come get this silver chip. This is our desired chip. Just raise your hand. We'll unmute you. Give us a holler. Okay, after 30 days and 30 nights of no drinking, you get a white chip. We're going to double our time. We getting 60 days and 60 nights. We got the pumpkin chip. Okay. After 3 months, we got a quarter of a year, y'all. You get the red. Nobody for red. We're going halfway through the year. That's half a cake, no icing. Okay. We call it the urine chip. You're in the club. It is yellow, but we like to call it the urine. Okay, and then we got the green chip. After 9 months, we give out this green chip. And finally, we're going all the way for the year. This is for 1 year or any multiples. You went 365 days or 366 in the leap year. No drinking.
I'm Samantha. I'm an alcoholic. I got a year on Sunday.
Congratulations,
Samantha! Yay!
Wonderful.
It works. Congratulations.
We might have another one or two, Heather.
I'm David. I'm an alcoholic. I had 9 years Sunday.
Hey,
David.
Congratulations, David. Oh, I love that. Happy dance. Way to go. Anybody else? Y'all, we got all the blue chips.
Y'all check into our meeting on Sunday morning. If I make it that long, I'll have 31 years.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Almost as long as I've been alive. I love it. Y'all, any more?
Tina from Easley.
Hello. Welcome. How many years you looking at? Hello?
I don't know where she is. Tina, did you leave?
Heather, what part of the north are you from?
I'm with Kip. I'm in the southern part of New York City.
Oh, you sound like a Yankee.
I'm born and bred. I mean, really born and bred. All right, y'all. If y'all want a Yankee comeback, I got the Yankee comeback. The Southern Yankee. Have you been out there testing the waters? I got one of these dry chips for you. All right. If not, then give God an AA a hand for the chips you hold.
All right. Thank you so much, Heather. Again, thank you, Lyle, for coming. Again, next week we'll have Georgia from South Carolina. Georgia from California speaking next week at this same time, same Zoom link and everything. You're welcome to come back every week. I just want to say this responsibility statement real quick. I am responsible when anyone, anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I am responsible. And always remember what's said here stays here, and no one speaks for AA. AA speaks so well for itself. And if y'all would like to unmute yourself, please help me close the meeting with the Lord's Prayer. And you can hang out after the meeting. I'm going to leave it open. Okay.
Okay.
Who's Father?
Our Father,
Our Father, who art in
in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth
as it is in heaven. Give us
this day
our daily bread,
Forgive us our trespasses. Forgive those
who trespass against us.
lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil.
Thine is the
For
power,
thine is the kingdom,
power, and the
power,
glory forever and
and
ever.
Coming out.
Amen.
Keep coming back.
Coming back.
Open for a little
Works if you
while.
work
That
it.
was
Don't work
fabulous.
it.
Wow.
Work
Thank
it.
you so much.
You're welcome.
That
Love
Johnny
you guys.
Ives.
Thank you for showing up to
I
keep
see
me
Johnny
sober.
Johnny Ives.
Ives.
Thanks, Lyle.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Ives.
Thanks for
What's
cheering.
up,
Shit.
Johnny?
Thanks, Lyle.
Thank you,
Lyle, come to New
Thank
York
you,
for some pizza.
Lyle.
Yeah, come
Lyle,
to New
come
York
to New York
City.
for some
New York
pizza.
City. Thanks for your service, Lyle.
You're welcome.
Vietnam, brother. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lyle. You're amazing.
Miracle,
Thank you.
miracle, miracle. Big Bob from New Jersey.
Hey, Big Bob.
Johnny Ives from New York.
God bless you, Lyle. God bless you.
Thank you.
That was fabulous, Lau. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm just, I'm blessed that I got to live it. And it would not have happened if I hadn't come into AA the way I did.
Wow, what grace. What a story of grace and mercy.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Lyle, you make us all feel really strong. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. You all, it was really more about you guys than it was me. I just did what I was asked to do. So thanks for being there ahead of me.
Thank you, Lyle.
You bet.
Lyle, what
Thank you
happened?
so much for your share.
Yeah. We love you. We're gonna get you. I'm gonna get you over here in Greensboro in person to speak.
I've been there before. I hadn't been for a while. All right, guys, I'm gonna check out. Thanks for having me. Love you all.
Love you.
Thank
See you later, brother.
Lyle.
Peace.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks, Lyle.
Wow.
Yep.
Time
Thank you so
to
much.
go slay some dragons.
Yeah. Tommy, thank you for reading.
You're very well. It's my pleasure, dear.
We got Georgia from California next week, and I'll be celebrating 10 years on the 8th. So that's the day she'll be speaking. So y'all come back next week.
Awesome.
That's a long time to go without a drink, Kip.
I remember when I first came in, you was one of the first people I met, Tommy. You asked me about the Mannheim auction. I'll never forget it. I've been to the Mannheim auction about 1,000 times since then.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
So you're in the car business.
Statesville and Kinley, Mannheim, North Carolina, and Statesville, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a connection, and that when you go into a dealer and you say, well, the Mannheim value is, they all start crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
hey guys, I just wanted to thank you all.
Having the meeting, Kip. I really.
Every Wednesday, we'll be right here with speakers from all across the land.
Well, I appreciate it. My bedtime was about the beginning of this meeting, but I stayed up through it.
Yeah. You may have heard of Georgia from California. Will be here next week.
Scott, Mark, are you in Scotland?
I am.
He's from Scotland. Talk about bedtime. He missed his bedtime yesterday.
What time is it in Scotland?
Yeah,
What
it's
time?
just 25 minutes past 2 in the morning.
Oh wow! It's time to get up here shortly.
As I had to be in here tonight, and I feel absolutely honoured and privileged to spend tonight with you and listen to Lyle and sharing recovery with each other. It's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you all.
Thanks for signing in. Mark was one of the first ones to sign in when I opened up tonight at 7 o'clock.
You know,
I got nervous there for a minute, y'all. I got nervous because I couldn't get him, and I was full. And
You did a great job.
He called me, and it all worked out. It was beautiful. I was panicking though. I was like, I done told all these people Lyle's gonna be here. I'm not gonna look real good if he don't show up. But he finally got in. I was able to withdraw a few people to get him in. I should have told him next time, please sign on about 30 minutes early. Somebody like that anyway, with that kind of, you know.
You all done a great job. So I'm going to sign off now and go to my bed happy and sober. All right.
Usually I only have like 80, 90 people, so we don't usually have that problem.
What time Sunday, Kip? What time Sunday, Kip?
Huh? What's that?
What time Sunday's meeting?
Sunday?
Yes, please.
Which Sunday meeting?
You have a Sunday meeting coming up? When's the next meeting?
Every Wednesday is the Zoomaholic. We
Oh,
have a early bird every morning at 8 o'clock. You're welcome to come to that. Just go to earlybirdgso.com and you can come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, every morning.
Excellent meeting. Thank you so much.
Earlybirdgso.com. Yes, sir. And you can find it on nc23.org. So lots of Greensboro meetings, but early bird. And then this one, of course, is once a week on Wednesday night. I think he left, but anyway, guys, thank y'all. I knew at first he turned me down speaking because I told him we normally close about 9 o'clock. He said, I can't tell my story in that amount of time. I was like, well, then you got the floor, because he turned me down. I was like, you just take as long as you need to take. And just phenomenal.
You made the right decision, man. That was beautiful. Just beautiful.
Yeah, and you read the story. He's got a book called, what's the name of that book he wrote? Let me look.
I looked it up. I saw the name of it. But,
yeah, he's got a book.
It's, if you look at Wikipedia, look up Lyle Prowse. Lyle Prowse on Wikipedia, and it's got the whole story there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a book that he wrote. Yeah, there's a book that he wrote. I forget the name of it.
Well, good job, Kip. I was afraid he was going to have to cut his story short, and I was thinking, man, I hope Kip told him he could tell his, he could stay on long as it took.
Oh yeah. Well, at first he turned me down. He said, because I told him, I said, we normally, we close out about 5 till and then pass out the chips around 9. But if you go over a little bit, you'll be fine. He said, I can't be limited to, and I was like, well, you go right ahead, buddy. As long as you're going to do it, we don't care what time it is. If people leave, they leave. But we had over 100 people on YouTube live, about 110 people on YouTube at one time.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, Shay messaged me and said she couldn't get in. There was over 100. I said, well, you should have known to get in.
Well, she could have went on YouTube. I put the link in the chat.
Well, it was Shay we're talking about.
Okay. Well, anyway, I figured that out, how to do that, where I can link YouTube to it, because I only got 100 people. I can get as many people as wants to come. Links on YouTube.
Kip, July 4th, you're with me, right?
Yes, I'll be there. I got my American flag.
There you go.
Homegroup.org.
Thank you.
American flag tie.
Okay, Kip, talk to you soon. Love you.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna close it out. Go ahead. Rob, congratulations.
Thanks, bud. You missed some really good cake.
Well, I'll get some on my celebration next Thursday.
Yeah, we need some cake.
Just tell Crystal to hook you up.
Okay. Well, y'all have a good one. I'm going to close it down. Take care.